Yeah, I mean, my reaction to reading this was, so?
Fuck your couch, nigga. Buy another one, you rich motherfucker. Fuck your couch, nigga. Fuck your couch.
For the people who call themselves MAGA, what they believed when it came to Donald Trump and the Epstein files was that this man clearly was not involved in it. He socialized with somebody he rubbed elbows with somebody who just so happened to be a pedophile. And in doing as much, he ultimately, put himself in the category, or at least allowed himself to be sullied, his presence to be sullied by this individual. But we watched this clip, right? And I in particularly don't like this individual, Scott Jennings, because he's just a fascinating, blatantly stark gaslighter. Just pay attention to my friend here.
Not sure I saw this quite what this was coming, but first of all, just on the legal front, Ellie, the threat to sue over the existence of this letter, whether he himself wrote it or not, how credible?
Well, I'm sure he will sue. I mean, he has shown that he is ready, willing, and able to sue. He really has to show two things. First of all, that the Wall Street Journal defamed him, that the statements here were damaging to him. That seems clear. The harder part, though, is going to be to show that they acted with what we call actual malice, meaning that they knew that what they reported was false or that they were reckless as to its falsity.
He gave you an accurate statement of law. However, I would like to point out that one of the more well-known defenses, an affirmative defense basically means that if you can present this and all of the elements are established, then no matter what the defendant is saying, or the plaintiff is saying in the case, the plaintiff don't have a case, because there's an affirmative defense that the law recognizes that will ultimately undermine your claim. And an affirmative defense to slander, an affirmative defense to defamation is truth. If you can prove, not that you believe that it was truthful, but that it was truthful, that is an affirmative defense to a claim of slander or defamation.
That's the really hard part to show. Wall Street Journal, I mean, they tend to know what they're doing. They tend to have their stuff buttoned up. So wouldn't surprise me if he sues, and would surprise me if he wins, not knowing the facts, but just knowing how high the legal bar is.
So Trump is saying, I didn't do this. But I think, to me, it's a separate question, Scott, whether this thing exists. And it seems that the Journal has evidence that it does, in fact, exist, and that it's perhaps...
I hate Scott Jennings. I know I said I dislike the man, but I'm going to correct myself and say that I actually hate people like him, who you can confront with the truth and they'll smile in your face and still speak a lie. I hate people like that. I believe them sincerely to be soulless. And he looks soulless to me.
Perhaps among the many, many, many documents that are in the possession of investigators here.
Yeah, I mean, my reaction to reading this was, so? I mean, 2003, before anything had happened, we know Donald Trump knew the guy. We also know he disowned him and kicked him out of his club.
Trump also disowned David Duke. But you noticed he wouldn't disown him while he could gain an advantage by associating himself with him or approximating himself with him. Trump is transactional. The only reason why he disowned Epstein is because it was political suicide.
I was waiting all day long for this rumoring of a bombshell. This looks like kind of a dud to me. And look, the president says it's not. I don't know. But either way, this gives me like Kavanaugh yearbook vibes. My impression is Republicans are going to strongly rally around the president on this thing. I mean, he may have been facing some turbulence over the Epstein situation, but this is the sort of stuff that brings people to circle the wagons around him.
Just to be clear, Trump doesn't agree with you because he's clearly very pissed off about this, perhaps very freaked out about it.
I think
because it's embarrassing.
I think this goes deep into the MAGA psyche and creates a cognitive dissonance. That is why we're seeing them revolt against him in this moment. He was supposed to be their guy who would go in there and do what the people would want and fight against the globalists who are pedophiles. Here's a perfect example of a globalist who is a pedophile. Trump told us, I'm going to out that guy in his client list. What happened? Now he gets in, he acts like everybody else who's protecting the globalist pedophiles. So how could you continue to think as MAGA he's going to protect us when he clearly didn't in this situation?
And Trump has also, talked about Epstein. Scott, you're making the point that, they were just friends. This was before he knew anything about Epstein's, alleged bad acts. But here's what he said in 2002 in a New York magazine. So this would have been a year before this birthday message. I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy, he said over speakerphone. He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it. Jeffrey enjoys his social life.
Now, when Trump says that he likes women just as much as I do, and they happen to be on the younger side. Now, keeping in mind, this is also a man, when he ran the Miss USA or whatever, admittedly said that he has no problem with walking back there and looking at...
Everyone's getting dressed and ready, and I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant, and therefore I'm inspecting it. Is everyone okay? They're standing there with no clothes. Is everybody okay? And you see these incredible looking women, and so I sort of get away with things like that.
That's what he said. The reason why people are having such a hard time accepting that is because they know that this man is exactly what he said he is. But they know by accepting the fact that he is what he says he is, it will mean that they themselves are the supporters of pedophilia here in this country and child sex trafficking. They know they'll do that because they threw their political support behind him. They exercised their elective franchise and put that man into office.
This is all in the public record as well.
Look, I think two things here. One, I think if this was such a big deal, and why wasn't it used against him long before when he was running for president?
If this wasn't such a big, because the Democrats are weak. The Democrats aren't Republicans. The Democrats won't dig in the dirt to throw mud in your eyes. And they believe that makes them better than the Republicans.
That when someone is cruel or acts like a bully, you don't stoop to their level. No, our motto is, when they go low, we go high.
There's a flip side to that coin.
I do not get angry. If somebody do something to me, I do something to them. That's just common sense.
So you believe in getting even?
Hell to the yeah.
That's the reason why it wasn't brought up as some type of campaign attack by the Democrats, be they Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden. These people are of the old guard. They have a particular understanding of engaging in politics that did not permit them to throw mud in the eyes of their opponent. Yes, of course, they'll get dirty, but they don't get that dirty. That's not their attacks. Those are Republican attacks. And Trump capitalized on that. And it literally knocked these people out at the knees. They're just now trying to invite profanity into their exchanges.
I believe the president on this one. I think he probably is not a guy that draws pictures. I know a lot of people that have gotten a lot of notes from him, and they've never gotten a picture.
According to the Wall Street Journal, a letter bearing Trump's name contained several lines of typewritten text framed by the outline of a naked woman, which appears to be hand-drawn with a heavy marker. Inside the outline of the naked woman was a typewritten note styled as an imaginary conversation between Trump and Epstein, written in the third person. Now, they're saying because Trump doesn't do that to every single person he engages with, be they J.D. Vance, Pam Bondi, McMahon, all of them, because that's not a common practice on his part of doing exactly what they identified in the right-leaning Wall Street Journal to every single person that he deals with, that somehow that kind of proves or justifies Trump's accusation or allegation that he never draws pictures. That's just, it's fascinating. It's fascinating. And it's also weak. It's weak. And it's so weak that it becomes fascinating.
A note from him and his signature that takes forever to sign. Like, I look at this and I sit there and I'm like, this.
The first item that President Trump is signing is the rescission of 78 Biden-era executive actions, executive orders, presidential memoranda, and others.
Trump's signature takes forever to sign. Did anybody else watch this man when he first got into office? Made a big fan. He had a guy come up with stacks and stacks and stacks of Project 25 executive orders. He didn't seem to have much of a hard time signing off on those. But let this gaslighting red-faced devil tell you whatever he wants to tell you.
Is it like this is the whole thing? Now we're talking about like
if he draws pictures of women, but we do
we're talking
have
about pictures here.
Okay, I know.
We're talking about
We're not talking about pictures, you spineless devil. What we're speaking about is the fact that this man is engaged in pedophilia. He was engaged in the act of child sex exploitation when he was not in political office, when he was not in the political sphere. The fact that you could minimize that because it's your candidate and not Joe Biden around there sniffing hair and being creepy, coming up behind people like some decrepit crypt keeper. Now somehow that it's the situation, there's levity to be invited into it. There's minimization to be invited into it. You guys you're horrible. And I'm glad now, the cognitive dissonant embrace, the Trump supporters, MAGA supporters were engaged in has been broken. It has been broken or not broken. Let's say rattled.
We do have this picture that
you
he
got
drew.
it now.
man. Oh, and there it is. It's okay. You got it now. No, it's done now.
Gaslighting scum.
That is turning on Donald.
This is going to kill his
picture. Look at the picture. He's done.
He'll never win.
He's done. His presidency's over.
He'll never win the 28 election. He'll never win the 28 primary.
I'm just saying.
They're
Trump.
basically saying by he'll never win the 28 primary is that, he can't run for office. But that's not what Trump believes. And that's not what Steve Bannon and the rest of these people aren't working diligently in finding a way or a loophole for him to actually do. But we can laugh at it now in 2025.
Trump says in this statement,
it's so rare you got 30 grand for a picture.
He says, I never wrote a picture in my life. I don't draw pictures of women. I don't know if he draws pictures of women, but he has drawn a picture in his life with a Sharpie, which is similar to what we are hearing about this image.
Look, I think, Abby, here is the bottom line. Whether or not he drew this picture, whether or not this was actually a letter that he actually wrote or typed out or whatever it was with the weird picture, that he drew behind her and didn't draw behind it. The bottom line is that, to me, is somewhat irrelevant. This is someone who said infamously on camera that came out about 2 months before the 2016 election, I can grab women by the you-know-what, and he still won the election. So I think that kind of persona perhaps is baked.
The women is the key word. Though sexual assault, though simple assault, though battery, though a misdemeanor offense, and indeed in some states a criminal offense, he still said women. It hits a little different when you say children. It hits a little different when you say child or tween or adolescent. It's a little different.
I think the bigger issue here is that this has caused the MAGA base to kind of lose its mind. And the question is the MAGA base going to come back together? Or is this a base that is fractured, that is significantly fractured because people have been, your colleagues, the Charlie Kirks of this world, people you know very well, have been all over the place saying that they're very disappointed in Donald Trump.
I should say that Charlie Kirk and Laura Loomer tonight have both said to other outlets that they don't necessarily believe that Trump wrote this or what have you. So they're starting to circle the wagons on this, which is what Scott suggested earlier.
The facts of Donald Trump's base are this, and we reported on this morning here on CNN. Since the Epstein business started, his job approval among Republicans has gone up. He's over 90% with Republicans. It's not hurting him with his base. I know you're a Democratic strategist, maybe not an expert on the MAGA base.
In his base, but look what's very frustrating.
But look what's happening. He's gone up. Why? Because while we're all sitting here dealing with this nonsense, out in real America, he's signing legislation on fentanyl. He's talking about the AI future in Pennsylvania. He's securing the border. Big
healthcare waste
bill.
from 17 million
So his numbers are going up with Republicans. This is a fantasy that Democrats have been engaging in since January that Republicans would abandon.
No, Scott, do not.
Trump, it's not happening.
This is on Democrats. This is
Every
something
night I
that's a
sit here and listen to a Democrat tell me Republicans don't support Trump.
This has been.
Again, I'm not going to push back on his numbers because I live in America and I understand the psychosis of those types of people that would vote for Trump. But what I will say to caveat that is that in this country, as long as your vote is somehow taking even if it's illusory, even if the promise is abstract, as long as your vote is taken away from somebody else and giving it to you, this country, those people will have no problem any day of the week throwing their support behind a person that promises to take something away from another and give it to you. So that doesn't surprise me that his approval rating is at 90%. It's not surprising at all.
Whether or not you want to call it a conspiracy, whether or not you want to call it something that the MAGA base has cared about, this has been something that has been deeply rooted in the MAGA base for a long time.
And it was deeply rooted in the MAGA base because Trump and his acolytes and satellites rooted it there. Suffice it to say that once everything comes out, I'm pretty sure they'll still support him because they seem to be low information, not even low information, low IQ people. No disrespect, calling a spade a spade. They seem to be low IQ people, so all they need is a couple of flashing objects in front of them, and eventually they'll move away. With the unsealing of the transcripts, the Epstein grand jury transcripts, that might be the olive branch to their insanity that brings them back within the fold. Who knows? But I'm not in any way convinced that this in and of itself was enough to stop the onslaught of stupidity, which is the undercurrent that put him into office. I strongly doubt that, but it is very interesting, and it is strong enough to break away those independents who started voting for him, believing that, and understandably and righteously believing that the Democratic Party was selling them out. I believe it'll be enough to turn those people inward and independent, or maybe into some type of different political party or to the couch. But I don't have no belief. A lot of his supporters actually sleep with their children. So that wouldn't be like literally sleep with kids. You can find them over and over and over again. As a matter of fact, before I let you people go,